Okay, so hello, welcome to our panel discussion, The Influence of Instagram. Thanks everyone for coming. If you could take a moment to silence your cell phones and open up your Instagram accounts. At the end, we're going to leave some room for questions, and we thought it appropriate to receive those questions via Instagram message. So throughout any point in our conversation, if you've got a comment or a question, go ahead and message us. So in just a second, I'm also going to pull up our handles, of course, and you'll have that information. So give me 1 second. I'm going to take a sip of water. So to start off, I wanted to share with you the anecdotal impetus for organizing this panel. So about a year ago, I had a student who kept making this cup over and over again without very much thought. And it was not a great cup. And we talked about this cup. We talked about how this cup might be tweaked or changed. We talked about things that this person might explore. We talked about the unfortunate nature of a vessel being really choked to death and too overworked. But this cup kept getting made in the exact same way. So finally I asked, why do you keep making this cup the same way over and over? And the student said, well, everyone likes it. And I asked her, who is everyone? And she said, everyone on Instagram. Shit. Okay. Huh. Well, so now Instagram is a platform for assessing the quality of a student's work. I don't know if that's okay. Maybe it is. I don't think it is. So I thought, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. We're all using Instagram, but I don't think that we're really talking about how that fits into our lives. So today we're going to talk about how Instagram interacts with, supports, denies, shapes even our ideologies as both artists and human beings. We're going to talk about it in an honest and inquisitive way without being explicit. We are not going to tell you how to gain more followers or how to become Insta-famous. I don't know if we have that knowledge in our pockets anyways. We're going to talk about and question motivation, curation, accessibility, responsibility. We're going to question the obligatory, all of that stuff that comes with Instagram as it pertains to what seems like an inherent and perhaps troublesome part of being an artist, a person, and a student. So our presentation is largely going to be images that we've pulled off of Instagram that we think are silly, funny, formative, but mostly it'll be our sort of banter and conversation that leads the show. So I'm going to introduce myself and our panel, ask some questions as we have this informal conversation about what Instagram does to us and for us. And remember to message us questions or comments. And while I introduce us, you'll be able to follow us. Okay.
I'm checking.
Ooh, okay. So my name is Ashley Jonas. I'm our panel moderator. I received my BFA in ceramics from the University of Florida and went on to earn my MFA, also in ceramics, at the University of Colorado at Boulder. While maintaining my studio practice, I co-direct and curate at the Blue House Arts, which is an artist-run nonprofit space in Dayton, Ohio, where I'm also a lecturer in foundations at the University of Dayton. This is Trevor Bennett. Can everyone see our handles? You see that? Did you miss mine? You got it? Okay. So this is Trevor Bennett. He discovered clay as an undergrad at the University of Arkansas in Little Rock. His first NCECA was in Louisville, Kentucky in 2007. He received his MFA from Alfred University in 2012. And today he is the coordinator of three-dimensional art at Northlake College in Irving, Texas. On our panel, Trevor has the lowest number of followers.
I just joined this morning, so.
He's also a liar.
Here's Kelsey Chase Folsom. He received his MFA in ceramics from the University of Colorado Boulder and his BFA from Georgia State University in Atlanta, Georgia. He has been a resident artist at numerous residencies, including the Center for Ceramics in Berlin, Germany, the Clay Studio in Philadelphia. He's taught at George Washington University, Maryland Institute College of Art, University of the Arts, and he is currently an assistant professor in ceramics as the Robert C. Turner Teaching Fellow at the New York State College of Ceramics at Alfred University. And we have Joanna Powell. She is a sculptor and a painter born and raised in Dallas, Texas. She received a BFA in ceramics from the University of North Texas in 2008 and an MFA in ceramics from the University of Colorado at Boulder in 2012. She's been a resident artist. Sorry, that was a funny photo. She was a resident artist at the Archie Bray Foundation, Haystack Mountain School of Crafts, Kansas State University, and Denison University in Granville, Ohio. In 2015, she was named an NCECA Emerging Artist. Currently, Joanna is a traveling lecturer and maintains a full-time studio practice in Helena, Montana. And we have Amy Santaferraro. She earned her BFA in Art Ed and her BFA in Ceramics from the Ohio State University. She received her MFA in Ceramic Art from the New York State College of Ceramics at Alfred University. Amy has been a resident and studio manager at Watershed Center for the Ceramic Arts in Newcastle, Maine, and now serves on the advisory board. Amy was a resident artist at Aramont School of Arts and Crafts and the Clay Studio. She was awarded a McKnight residency grant for ceramic arts and was an assistant professor of art at Kansas State University. Amy is currently the program manager of the MFA Applied Craft and Design at Oregon College of Arts and Crafts in Portland, Oregon. Whew. So, to start, I'm going to ask our panel why they personally use Instagram.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. So I'm just going to throw out some words, and we'll kind of touch on more of these as we enter this discussion. Those words for me are correspondence, admittedly some confirmation, and then I'm also interested in showing progress, and I'm interested also in actually making art via Instagram.
Well, mine's kind of a combination because part of it's peer pressure, which actually is from Ashley, and the other one is the fact that I got a 3-month-old puppy named Felix, and I was able to kind of document his life, and I was like, oh, this is great. I'll use Instagram, and it was really to kind of share with my friends and family, and now I was like, oh, I should also do that for my career. That's a good idea. And so it's kind of evolved into that. Yeah.
I guess when I was a resident at the Bray, that's when they were like, you need to get Instagram. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I was really nervous, actually. Like, I had fear about making my first post. I was like, it's like the world of judgment is out there. But, so it was so that I could be, like, tagged in photos and have a place to go, and yeah.
Yeah, I skip every other cool thing, I think. I didn't do LiveJournal. I did Friendster.
Yeah.
Didn't do MySpace.
I don't know what that is.
Didn't do Facebook, and so this was the next up. And I don't know what's next, but we'll get there. I use it mostly as a diary or kind of like a sketchbook. I also am guilty of like using it for confirmation or affirmation, and I think similarly, just like quick little blips of art making.
So we all have sort of this personal way and reason for using it, and I'm sort of curious if you guys could maybe touch on the larger collective motivation for us all using Instagram.
Yeah, so the first word I said was correspondence, and I think something that's interesting to note is that throughout the art history, really, artists have been corresponding with one another. Famous correspondences would be maybe Picasso and Matisse. Duchamp wrote thousands of letters of correspondence to his colleagues, his contemporaries. I think like a couple of hundred of those was just to Brancusi alone. So I think that I've never really been a avid letter writer, like on paper and sending those things, but for me, Instagram really has opened this opportunity to knock on the door of anyone I know at any given moment and share information and correspond. If Instagram just like went away tomorrow, I'd actually be in big trouble because I really rely on it to coordinate with my peers.
And in that coordination, like things are really accessible, right? I could shoot a message to Matthew Day Jackson right now if I wanted to, and tell him how like badass I thought his last painting was. But yeah, what else do you guys think about motivation?
Yeah, I think I really love it because I can keep up with contemporary art. I find myself, and I think I can speak for probably a lot of us, but I avoid the news maybe too much sometimes because now, I don't want to go too far into that, but we're questioning truth. And so I think image is really, well, that's another story too. But, because you have so many filters. But I really go there to keep up with some of my favorite artists. I like to see into their studio. I used to not be a big fan of process and looking at somebody's process because I kind of like the magic that comes when I don't know how it's made. But I find myself very attracted to that. And kind of seeing seeing the artist as a person. And so, which I think sometimes, especially with art stars, they kind of become stars and they're not people anymore, right? And so I think it helps me stay connected to them like that.
I just forgot everything I was gonna say. I go there mainly for procrastination, I think it's the great time waster. I think about this when I go back to, in high school, I had a teacher, Peggy Lehman, and she was constantly screaming at us to not watch TV. It was the idiot box, and this is kind of the new idiot box in a way. And but I go there and some days I'll sit there and it'll just, for hours I have been looking at Instagram or something, and it's a hole or whatever, but that motivation, also it's for, confirmation of sometimes, Montana's lonely. There's nobody else there in my studio but me, and there's just me and my cat hanging out. But and I also go there to share sort of things that I love and people that I love. I post pictures of my dad or my cat or I don't really post anything else. I don't even post my significant other because I'm is that he doesn't want to be on there. Why should I force him to be on there?
Does he have his own account?
No, he does, but he doesn't use it. So
Okay.
it's I'm I don't know, So it's kind of, I feel stays a little bit topical, yeah. But
Yeah, now that I think I started actually Instagram when I was teaching, and it's about synchronizing. It's about being able to send images to students, to be able to contact them. Yeah, and I am a person that writes letters a lot. Joanne and I keep very active writing practice. And so
you would pay extra weird postage because I send paper bags to her whenever. Yeah.
And so for me, it is about sometimes checking in so that people know I'm alive. Whoa. That's what happens when you say alive.
Is that the wrap it up?
Yeah, this is distracting. Okay. And so, yeah, it is about letting people know I'm aware. And in this lifestyle we live,
Yeah.
as artists and as educators, we travel around a lot. And Chase was really animate about speaking about this in our conversation. It's impossible to keep up with everybody all the time, but it's important, and I do feel a responsibility to let people know I'm alive or well, but it can also be a strange guise. I sometimes, if I'm feeling down, I want some likes to feel excited again.
To feel better.
Right.
Maybe we
So,
just turn the
yeah.
lights off.
Yeah, so the difference between Facebook and Instagram, like I've abandoned Facebook. It's become a little confusing and
Wow, let's just do that. Let's just no lights.
I love that. Ooh. Can we just turn the lights off? That's fine.
We're turning this into a dance party.
Can everybody please turn on your phone
Guess
now?
what?
So we
you
can
all
have
were
some
you were
light?
all duped. It's just
Phone
a party.
flashlights out.
Okay, this is awful. Yeah. There's wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
Facebook
the
is
face-
watching, guys. Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Well,
We're gonna unfollow you.
everyone is leaving. Yeah.
okay. We can,
Unfollow.
Unfollow. Yeah.
let's keep talking. Close your eyes. Just close our eyes.
No, it's this is crazy.
Who's this guy? So, hi, everybody. I am Tony Wise. I am one of the AV technicians with NSECA.
Yeah.
Hello. So, as much as I would love to turn the lights off and let us see this presentation with incredible imagery, with the lights off, that's a bit of a fire hazard. And so, if everybody could just be cool about the lights for a moment, this is happening in a few other rooms, and we're going to contact the building and get it taken care of. So, if we could have just a few moments, that would be great.
I got a message to lean into our mics, y'all.
Okay.
Pull 'em forward.
Oh,
and lean
okay.
in.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks.
I guess I should move.
We didn't give any like epilepsy warnings or anything.
No, is Zimra? Zimra's not around.
No, Summer's not here.
He's clear.
Clear.
This hurts my eyes.
Yeah, it hurts.
It does. I don't like it at all. It's making me bother me.
This is anxiety inducing.
Yeah, this is really
Sorry about this,
high
everyone.
anxiety. Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think we should just keep talking. I don't want to waste anyone's time. So,
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
so yeah, let's.
Okay.
Yep.
If we wanted to address the difference between Facebook
Yeah.
and Instagram,
Instagram for me is a lot more streamlined. That's why it holds my attention. It's cleaner. I can just go there and do like a number of things. I don't even like the stories feature on Instagram. That's just like too impermanent for me and weird. And I don't even access all of Instagram's features. I just go there for my very particular fix, and then I'm off of there. Facebook, like I said, it's just become a little more politicized. It's more of a
Yeah.
news feed, and it's got a lot more reposting, and it's just become difficult to navigate for me.
I think it's just sad.
Yeah.
Facebook's just every time when I check it, sometimes it's really uplifting, but I think for the most part, like you said, it's a lot of politics, and I can see it, and I don't have to see it.
It's a place to complain, I think.
Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like you want to
Face
go.
bitch.
It just
compl-
comes.
Yeah, face bitch.
It just comes down to the buttons. There's just way too many things to click on Facebook. I just can't keep up.
Yeah.
I think the advantage of Instagram is its marketing, to be quite honest. It's about products. It's about pushing forward your imagery and your identity as a maker or an artist.
Yeah.
I just think that's more appropriate for where we are.
But I think advertising is a lot. I mean, I've bought a lot of underwear on Instagram, so
I too.
I mean,
I bought a sweater.
I mean, it's really
Yeah.
awful.
It works.
It does work.
It does.
Can I talk about another motivator? Something that inspired me, like Amy Santaferraro's Instagram account has always been in my mind this heavily curated, very well orchestrated sort of thing, and her posts are so thoughtful. If you're not following Amy, like, you can see this like this very choreographed thing that's very thoughtful. And so when I came into Instagram, I was kind of thinking about that all the time, and I think it kind of led me into this vein of making art via the platform, as in becoming a little bit more of a photographer, more of a videographer. And I have several little videos on my feed that are just documentaries, basically. I've been filming commercials for a local arcade, and they don't know about it. But it's just kind of, it's become actually way more of an art-making platform for me than I ever thought it would be.
That's so interesting, because when you say that, like, I've never thought of it like that, and it's just how different we use it, you know, like, I just post things that I see around, like I'll see something weird on the concrete or something, you know, like a donut like being oozed on by a sewer pipe, and I'm like, okay, that's like, you know, I'm like, that's the penguin's donut or something, you know, like.
And I
just
think,
yeah.
I think too, it's the antithesis of the ceramic process that's so belabored and long.
Yeah.
It can be instant, but thanks for your kind words, Trevor, but I labor over my Instagram posts. It is not instant. My students will attest. It takes me like 45 minutes to...
For one post.
Yeah. I got to get the puns right. I don't, you know, the
Oh my God,
hashtags.
pun master, Amy, yeah.
But I think it is in an effort to push something out, right?
Yeah.
I fall in and out of the pace. And when I was in China, it was insane. It just flowed, and I had to rein back. And I think it is about seeing something new and having that ability to present it as new, something exciting. But
I think that was one of my fears of getting Instagram, is
Yeah.
because I did not want it to take up my time, you know, and I think that time is very precious.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the idea of having to have a Facebook and then have an Instagram, which, you know, thank goodness, like, Facebook's being phased out. But it is, if you do not know this. It is now. But I think that I'm not as careful with my post. I'm actually like, okay, Chase, you have like 2 minutes because time's ticking. So I think that's really interesting, especially Trevor. Yeah, you taking it towards like a more artistic practice. I've
Right.
never thought of it like
Chase,
that.
I was setting you up for the Pulitzer quote.
Oh, well, we haven't gotten there yet, have we?
Sorry.
So aside from the personal ways that we're using Instagram and possible motivations, I'm curious about where you guys think authenticity enters into Instagram. If it does, when it does, how does it? How can we glean what is a...
Oh,
hello.
Put a shirt back on.
I was less nervous without the light.
Yeah, it was cool. So where might authenticity enter into Instagram, and can we perceive whether or not something is being authentic?
Oh, no, go.
Well, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind with this is like the different types of posts. Like, I'll post a picture of like me and my dad, and that's like a very tender moment. Like, I love my dad to death or whatever, you know. And then there's like a difference from like posting my work, where I still am like have problems with that. I'm like, what is this doing? Where is this going? How is this received? And you know, like, it's like posting a picture of my dad. It's like not about validation at all. It's just about love, you know. And in posting even work, it's maybe just about sharing. But you know, who doesn't like to get hearts or whatever, you know? It's just so there. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about Instagram and social media in general. I'm wondering, has it helped or benefited your business? How has it affected your businesses? I understand that it is used for personal life and the things, your dogs and your cats and stuff, you want to post your dad. But I'm wondering about the business end of it. Do you think that it's helped your business?
So we've got a question about whether or not Instagram has helped our businesses, or how we're using it. Perhaps about the...
In a financial sense, for me, no, not at all. But I don't go to it for that reason. I'm not looking for that.
Yeah.
but in a business sense of the business of my classroom or something like that, yeah. And there's a lot of benefits to using Instagram to help with coordination of all sorts. You know.
So you're a teacher?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah. I
And
think
I-
I'm the only one that's not a teacher on the panel, but
But she's a really good
sometimes.
teacher, though.
but I can't
Um,
teach. Put me out there, you know. Like.
But I think this kind of business side, yeah, I use it for the classroom too. But at the same time, I've had people inquire about my work, about purchasing my work through messaging. So but they didn't buy anything. So so they, it goes both ways. But I love that I have that transparency with the world. That they can access it like that.
Yeah, same thing. Like I've never had any like sales or anything from, or like it's just maybe reaching people is what it is. It's like a slow build, slow burn. I don't know. It's never been a motivation about like, I am going to gain followers and I'm going to, like somehow be successful through. I think, work makes more work, and Instagram isn't making work. Like, it's yeah.
I might actually use this opportunity to talk through somebody else's experience of Instagram. I have a friend who's a 23-year-old Nike designer. Yes. Maybe it's just me.
If you're
Um,
positive, yeah.
Jeez, I'm like self-conscious about it now. And his name is Bryce Wong. He's amazing. He has like a billion followers. And he posts small, really beautiful illustrations. They're very small. And he recently has been approached to a completely different venue to show these works. And he's now like, what do I do? This is a beast. It's turned into something else. They were just this thing for him, and now they're to be exhibited. And so it's sort of branched his business in a way. And before he's doing that, now he's making T-shirts. So he's experiencing these possibilities that he hadn't seen before.
There are, make no mistake, we're not making any money from Instagram, but there are some artists who are at this conference who are using it really creatively strategically. Sure, they're announcing giveaways, and they're like coordinating events that ultimately do lead to sales, especially in pottery, I think.
Joanna sold some cups because of Instagram while we were here.
Well, I did. Yeah, I mean, and that's like that, but I was like, otherwise, I'm like, I just sit at home. So it's like, I was like, and I'm sort of like still trying to figure all this out or whatever, yeah, I mean, it was like, I don't know why, but, I was like, I wanted to share them, Not necessarily that I was going to make billions of dollars. Like maybe I made like $100, like, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So, but it's
And I
Yeah.
think I actually really appreciate and welcome the question about how has Instagram worked for your business or grown your business, because I think what we're trying to do here is maybe talk about motivation, also talk about perhaps a strategy or an agenda, and when that starts being authentic or when it stops being authentic, whether or not those two things play together. I'm really hoping that we're just being super, super honest about what Instagram is for us and what it does for us, and what we're trying to both give and receive from it. Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you tend to find you end up with more followers who are potters and know your work already, or people from elsewhere or the general public who stumble across your work?
I think it's like, well, I follow a lot of
everything.
painters, and so like then when if I comment on their work, then like usually sometimes they'll follow me, and I don't ever or if I follow them, they maybe will follow me back. I don't know if it's like guilt. There's a lot of guilt following, and there's people I like even guilt-like things. I'm like, I don't even like this, but it's so easy to just be like,
Heart.
okay, heart, And another thing I was thinking about people using it for business, like the giveaway aspect, I am totally repulsed by that. I think we as artists should never give away our work. It like devalues us.
Yeah.
And
And
Yeah.
also, I mean, I have the lowest number of followers, guys. Like, that's just me. I really don't care. I don't care about the followers. I'm there for other reasons, and I've actually kind of stopped hashtagging too, because it's kind of part of that strategy of networking and getting your
Yeah.
numbers up. You know, I wish Instagram would just take the numbers out of it. That would be amazing. But monetization and whatever.
But then that's also strategy and
several.
also builds that kind of intensity.
Yeah.
Something I don't want to get too off topic because
Yeah.
I was thinking about authenticity and also this is a student panel.
Right.
And one of my favorite artists is Jenny Holzer, and I love her truisms and is what she calls them, and she says chasing the new is dangerous. And so, and I love that because it's multifaceted. You can think about it. You can apply it to anything. But I see Instagram in a lot of my students' work. Like I can see where they're seeing something and they're remaking it, or they're mimicking those images. And I think it's really important that we're kind of. I feel like I don't want to say now more than ever, but I think now that we're in this this kind of image-based world, that we're actually hyper aware of the images that are entering into our studio, because that's what's happening. You see it, and then sometimes you don't even notice that you're replicating it. I think that's something that's really interesting. Like when I pointed out to a student, I'm like, "Do you follow this person?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
just saying."
Is
I
it-
agree.
Let's just look at the work.
Wayne,
Yeah.
you had a question?
I have a question, and really a player in this game. What I'm
I follow you.
I follow you.
I follow you too.
related to an observation that there seems to be a thematic tendency to work in the margins relative to unity. So in that sense, I'm meaning that some things are tastefully transgressive, but they're also looking at things that otherwise you might think of as in the margins. So we have a little drawing of somebody going up with a Instagram
Yeah.
image that plays with
Yeah, there we go.
marginality and margins and observations that are not typical of standard cultural, or the irony in a commercial, or a kind of interwoven cynicism, or a sentimentality that we feel maybe otherwise a little bit verklempt about expressing. So I'm interested in how you observe a question in that observation about what Instagram, how you understand it in maybe some terms of that sort, because I see that as a very strong aspect.
Right. I'm curious if that has maybe a little something to do with the sort of anonymous nature of it, because it's not my person that is sharing this thing, but it's my handle or my profile, and so maybe I'm feeling a little more comfortable or more safe showing images that are sort of living in the margins or that digress in some sort of way. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think in a way it's given me, I'm far too sentimental and nostalgic. Perhaps a critique Wayne delivered to me in graduate school. But I think it's given me ownership over it in a way that I'm not, I don't know, it's both anonymous and very personal. And I'm not embarrassed about it, but it's not something that I would push on you if I had to answer to it, I guess.
If I have I'm going to be very honest here. This is going to get a lot of unfollows.
Go ahead.
I have this capacity for generating ideas, and a lot of that is the sketchbook. But sometimes I do feel that the Instagram account, because of its kind of inspirational qualities, or its like sketchbooking, scrapbooking
Yeah.
qualities, kind of detracts from my sketchbook sometimes. Because I can take a photograph in a very documentarian sort of sense, or maybe notice a little a formal, exciting thing that's happened in life and take a picture of that, and then I don't have to sketch it. I don't have to like pull out the sketchbook and like observe and report. So that kind of taps into, Wayne, your idea about making the marginal not marginal by putting it out there. But I do think that the immediacy of Instagram, it's a feed that updates by the minute. There is actually there's very little responsibility in the images that we post. So we can throw that thing out there and not feel too much pressure about how good it is or how successful or whatever.
There's kind of like a benefit to the fact that it actually lacks the decency of time,
Yeah.
And I find myself kind of I kind of forget about Instagram and then I remember it again, and I kind of love that it's this space that I don't want to say like extension of self or something, because I don't think it's that. It's this other thing that I like. I mean, it is.
I think
like,
it is.
Right. No, I mean, it. I'm tethered
is,
to
right?
it. But I think that what's interesting about it is like I decide when I want to do anything, right? Like I cannot post anything for the next 2 months.
But it's also
I
the
think
algorithm.
I think you're dancing around my question, but that's good.
Well, I like to dance.
We,
So.
because it could become a very boring, in-depth intellectual inquiry. But I think, just brief follow-up. In the social political sphere, it's power to the people. So you're taking charge of kind of communication as artists, and I'm sure there are other people who use Instagram who are not artists, but there is that kind of assertion. And I think by posting things that are somewhat in the margin, you grasp onto an articulation that is more power to the people. That's the sort of tagline, because it's just slightly countercultural, slightly transgressive. So if we have a kind of assumed common denominator, one of the great things about Instagram is that it's breaking down those structures, and that as the youth culture, you're taking charge of power to the people. And that would be an observation perhaps in another kind of cultural context like China, where that conversation is really important. And I think it's becoming more and more important here for us, and trying to sort out how those messages are commandeered or appropriated by other political forces is an interesting question. But I think power to the people may be just an encapsulation a bit of what I'm trying to get at.
I think something that we haven't talked about is access and privilege yet, because you can't have an Instagram account without a smartphone, and so I think that is something that's that we very easily forget about. I think I would say probably everyone in this room has an Instagram account, or maybe you're interested in a smartphone. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I think that's something that we haven't talked about, and I think that's something that was on my mind from the get-go when we started doing this. Was we would not have access. We could not participate at all without that. It's not something that you can go to on the web, which I think is something that's really interesting and alarming.
I mean, it's also an algorithm, so it's like, things are chosen. We kind of, by what we look at, it just shows us more of the same, so it's kind of like homogenous. Like there's really no, you can choose to not participate in a lot of things by what you click on, and it's all like, it's mind control. I don't know. But I mean, it's very much, we were even talking about like once you get past a certain amount of followers, like it ramps up, and then
Level up.
so it's kind of, that's insane. Like I wasn't even aware of that until talking to Amy about that. I was
Rice,
like,
he knows
that's
it all.
crazy. Yeah. Well,
You have a question?
I have the microphone.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Well, yeah, you
don't have
can,
to have a
but
phone.
it's just like, I mean, then you have to have like access to the internet or like a laptop, which is, you know, maybe like $2,000 or $3,000 if you get a Mac or whatever. But like, you know, so it's like there is still very much like, you know, it's not so democratic. Yeah, it's nothing is democratic. Like it's the truth. You know, it's,
I want to go back to, I'm here. Here.
Oh, sorry.
I want to go back to the statement you made before. You say you use Instagram as a educational tool, and the students use it to follow that. But I have I'm observed that a lot of students, they follow and they try to imitate their work.
Right.
But I think, in my opinion, I think it's a little passé. I think it's counterproductive because the student is not developing the imagination.
Sure. This is probably the controversial topic about this, you know. But something I want to bring up is that every ceramics classroom that I've ever been in, I've been in a few of them, has this decades-long practice of posting images all over the place, you know. Clippings from Ceramics Monthly, show cards, posters from NCECA, images all over the place. And I think that we do that as some kind of reminder or some kind of look at the possibilities. It's a motivator. It's a little bit of cheerleading. Look at these shows and these curatorial things. But there is a difference in that immediacy of Instagram, and the constant feed is very much different than the poster on the wall that's literally collecting clay dust, right? It's been there for a long time. Some of those images we're putting on the walls, or teachers are putting on walls, are important for a reason. They want students to see that. But some of them are just throwaway images that happen to just get up there, and we don't actually even like the work, right? It's just there.
And I can relate to that because I do that.
Yeah.
But I don't actually copy. I mean, I'm in the ceramic business for about 10 years.
Sure.
So this is new.
Right.
You know, a self-taught. But actually copying the exact image and create it and call it yours.
Yes, Instagram has definitely perpetuated that dilemma because of that immediacy and that disassociation. The like copying a handle on a teapot, for example. We don't have reverence for the artist's
it's not
point of
Instagram.
reference.
It's the mentality of the young people that is okay to
But I
copy.
I think we need to be sure, though, that some of the ways we learn is to imitate.
exactly.
Yeah, I do understand
Yeah,
that. But
that's
To
what-
call it your own is a problem, but
but the mentality
Through
that they say,
imitation we learn. Yeah.
it's okay for me to copy because it's that I'm flattering the original artist, but it's not okay to
To call it
profit
yours.
from
Right.
it.
right, that's a problem.
But
Well, we have
the
Urban Outfitters doesn't.
Yeah.
there's-
Well, I'm not sure if that is the mentality. There's two
Doesn't have to, right?
Would you like to, you've been had your,
Talk louder.
I guess for me, when I'm thinking about all of this, and it's like, oh yeah, really like Wayne's idea of this power to the people, right?
Mhm.
And sure, there is this like certain like you have to be of a certain class to access it, right? But the people of that class who can access it also have a platform that they can share. These are people who can share things. So to connect these people, it's like, sure, just because it's maybe exclusive, I don't think that you go, oh, well, that's not a value exactly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an exclusive group with an extraordinary kind of value. And with that power, right, with great power comes great responsibility. And the thing for me is I see so much of what, none of you on the panel are really Insta-famous, right?
right.
Not yet, Henry.
28 people, right?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need time, Henry.
With like
Yeah.
millions of followers, right?
Yeah.
And then what are they propagating from that platform? And I feel like as artists, we're making ideas and we're sharing them. And so here we are with this platform to reach a bunch of people. And I feel like for the most part, the things that we make are images.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
how many people know the things that I make as a physical object? So many
Yeah.
more people experience those ideas and those things as an image. And so I guess my issue with Instagram is I see so much of it as being about perpetuating a kind of personal success that I think really comes out of
Oh, yeah.
and isn't really utilizing that platform as a space for art. And I think that being able to communicate to people through art is a valuable thing. That's why we're here. And confused why that isn't more of the expectation. You know, I'm really turned off when I see it just as a space for advertising and personal gain.
Right.
Unfollow. That's right.
Right.
Unfollow people. Yeah. I'm just
And I
like,
thi-
it's
and I
too
think-
much. Don't
right.
blast my feed. You know. Yeah.
Well, and I wonder if what you're talking about
Yeah.
is that authenticity that I'm curious about. So if we've got, if we go to Instagram with an agenda, so my agenda is to do such and such for my business, or my agenda is to get this amount of followers, I'm curious about how we receive that information as viewers. Are we less interested if someone's agenda is to only promote their own artistic practice, or is it about a platform for sharing and for trying to be democratic? I mean, we can go to the library and check out a laptop and look at Instagram, so I think it's true that it can be this like really powerful place. But where does that fit and sit within us as human beings, like, and as artists and as makers and as sharers?
And I think, Henry, you touched on something that I think is like, we are in the business of visual innovation, right? And so Instagram is that perfect space. And by the way, I wanted to bring up, just to plug, Elizabeth King, incredible artist, and she did a piece called 8 Views of a Sculpture, which is all image. And I think that's just some work that's talking about that very thing. Sorry,
I want to
something
get
else.
to,
Standing
yeah,
up.
I
Yeah,
want
we
to
have a lot
I
of
want to
questions.
make sure
Yeah.
that this is like a group conversation too. Yeah.
So, how it was brought up that students are imitating the work from Instagram. I don't know for sure because I'm not that old, but when people are learning how to make ceramics, they're looking at images. Back before Instagram, they're looking at these images in books. They're looking at other artists' works in galleries. I don't see a difference. I think that students trying to copy work that they've seen on Instagram is more about building the skills and getting them, because when students first start out, they don't always have that inspiration to come up with something new on their own. But they still need an avenue to build their skills.
Yeah, so trying to figure out. Yeah, it's like through, working out ideas. Like, even though it's like going back to this, like there was like the bisque wall in undergrad, and I tried to make like each one, and it was like Margaret Bowles. I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how this happened. It wasn't necessarily that I was like, I'm going to take this and, this is my work, but it is a figuring out, and that's what we do with everything. It's like to play golf, we must practice, to go bowling, we must practice, everything. Yeah.
And for some of these students, they reach out to me with questions about, I saw you use this technique in a video that you put up. Can you please fill in the gap? Because I tried it and I failed. And that's fantastic, because learning how to fail early, fail often makes you better. But these students have a way where when you were looking at the bisque wall, you didn't have a way to go and talk to that artist. But now these students are having a way to communicate directly with me. Hey, I tried technique XYZ and it failed at this moment. Can you please tell me how to get over that plateau?
Well, like I had an old school professor and he just told me to read a book.
But
that's so disappointing.
I think that there's an ethical responsibility though, as an educator, to tell the student, hey, that's where you got, you know what I mean? That I'm recognizing that that's where you got that from, because I don't want them to leave thinking that that's okay.
It's their responsibility
right?
to
want
be
them
curious.
To be exactly.
Yeah, it's like curiosity needs to be explored. Like we should not hold anyone's hand to explore their curiosity.
Absolutely. I would argue that a lot of them would not continue on to market and then try to sell that idea as their own, because they know that there is someone out there that they got it from, and they will be called out on the internet.
Well, I think it was I read, it was actually from an Instagram post from Daniel Tehran. He said, it was a quote from George Timok that was like, you can fool the fans, but you can't fool the players. So it's like, everybody knows, it's no mystery. Like, you're
So-
not fooling anybody. Like,
So I think that what you're saying is
Yeah.
that Instagram is a platform for accessibility, for images, for information, for tutorials, and so that is a different thing than I made an object. I'm going to post it on Instagram under my handle, because when that happens, it becomes more permanent. It becomes about ownership because an Instagram handle is very much about identity. Do you agree or?
Well, I use Instagram very differently. I don't have a personal Instagram. My Instagram is a curated feed for my business.
Right.
And I very much try to make it about not every post is an advertisement. I show process, I show all these things, but I don't put up pictures from my personal life because kids especially, don't go to websites anymore. You can have the most beautiful,
What's a
highly
website?
curated website imaginable,
Yeah.
but if people, especially kids, are looking to buy a piece of your work, they're not even going to go to the website. They're going to look at your feed on Instagram, and that is your body of work.
Right, right. I want to get to the
that's awful. Yeah.
person in the back. Yeah.
Hi. So I have an Instagram and it's grown pretty large. And I did not start out as, I'm not a formal educator. The Instagram, it's JT Surround, I'm not advertising, but some of you may know it. The point is that basically I started as a way to get my work in front of like designers and galleries and that sort of thing. What I actually ended up doing was having a huge following of students and people learning. And so there's a couple things I want to say. One thing is, like was said before, when I started out in clay, I came from another place, and I basically went to the library and got all the books and everything. And I did what my dad used to say, which was look in the encyclopedia, So basically, starting with Instagram, they're exposed to so much more than I even was 15 years ago. And what is nice is that I've had students contact me when they contact me politely and actually write to me, not like a text.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's lovely. And I actually, at this NCECA, met this lovely young girl who is studying ceramics, and she showed me her graduate series that was based on I don't know if this is working, I'm screaming.
We can hear you.
But it was based on some of the same techniques that she picked up from my Instagram and my process, and we connected. So there's a connection value, there's a marketing value, because I have been approached by galleries and interior designers for my work, and then there's also this other thing I want to mention, which is that Instagram, like you said, has an algorithm, and that algorithm changes a lot. So as much as it gives you the freedom to have your voice, it can be taken away at any given moment, and they are still in charge. And and you can't
Eye
get
in the
mad at
sky,
that. And people get really mad at that, and I don't think it's right to get mad at it because they created it, and you getting involved was your choice. So I just want to say, like, those are some things that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
thanks for
there's
sharing your
a
perspective.
question, or Chris, right there, yeah.
Jump around there for a minute, but one thing I think is really interesting is like before Instagram, before Facebook, MySpace, LiveJournal went through like a bunch of different stuff. Was Twitter in there somewhere?
Twitter.
And Twitter created the hashtag, right? Or our understanding of the hashtag comes from DOS. It's about library. It's about cataloging information and filing things away.
It's the Dewey
You
Decimal
don't have to
System.
hashtag at all. People just might like your image, and some people are really good at posting an image, no text, and everybody likes it. But they're probably good also talking in public. But like, if you hashtag things, or you make hashtags, or you try to innovate in that way, and you're not like hashtagging fine art. I mean, those are nice things to do. You get put into a gigantic pool.
Yeah.
But if you hashtag like NCECA 2018, you're in a group of 250 images, and it's easy to see all of that stuff. And so accessibility comes in many different ways. Also, you can access Instagram on the website by computer, but also there are lots of websites that are tracking the posts that come from Instagram, and so that information is getting thrown out to the web, so you don't even need to go to Instagram to find Instagram images anymore. So it's kind of everywhere, but you choose to be that way. You choose to let people into your life, voyeurism and all that stuff. They're watching you. But it allows, I mean, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
But I think the people we were talking about, Insta-famous and meme lords and the meme. So like you post an image, you get an image and text, gives you that information real quick, you get the joke, you move on to the next thing. It's like how it works. We like a thing, we move on. We like a thing, we move on.
Yeah.
And I think that there are ways to show people information, to write your whatever bit down after you post a new image, and hashtag, and create emotion, curation in how you post. And so your posts become kind of this other part of your practice. It's
Yeah.
not a waste of time. It's like reading a book.
Yeah.
You take the time out of your day to get that information. And so I think all those things really is what I wanted to like spit out.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
And it seems like I don't think we're poo-pooing any aspect of Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, I
It's
think
poo-pooable, for sure.
Oh
but-
yeah. I was
there
talking
are
about
there are
was a
some
swirl,
problems
but-
embedded within it because I think that sometimes we do attach and equate self-worth and success to this other thing, and so that's just kind of sticky and tricky a little. Yeah. I don't know where to go. Well, I saw your hand first, so we're doing that.
How do you think the algorithm has changed as Instagram stepped away from chronological order?
Don't know.
Don't know.
I don't know. So,
How has
everyone's we
how
know
has
more
the
than you. Can
algorithm-
we answer?
How has the algorithm changed since Instagram stepped away from chronological order?
Come talk to me after the
Okay.
I don't see everything you post, even if I like you and I follow you.
Yeah. So
Right.
But I wonder if that tactic actually makes us more human and inquisitive, right? Like,
It
if I know and
does,
love
yeah.
Joanna and I see a post and I'm like, whoa, haven't seen that from Joanna in a while.
Yeah.
Then I go to her profile and there's like a
Exactly.
bunch.
It also adds for people like me who are, I seemingly appreciate the impermanence of the posts. It gives me even less responsibility. Like, I don't know if you guys also feel this way, but the work in progress has really boomed. You know, we are seeing so much greenware now, and
whipping
we
it
don't
out.
know if that got fired. Did it blow up? Did it?
Yeah.
Who knows? And I'm wondering if there's a link to that impermanence that, wow, the algorithm has changed a little bit, so even less people are going to see it, so who cares? Here it is.
Sure.
It's good, I think, but maybe not, you know.
I can delete it.
So I think that circles all the way back to correspondence, you know, sharing, and now we're in this place where there's even less of a problem. We can just get it out there, you know, who cares?
So we're at time. I'm gonna if you have burning questions, we're like totally happy to stick around and have a larger conversation. But I want to give everybody a minute to get up if you've got other things to do. Thanks so much for coming and
Thank
being a
you.
part of
Yes,
our
yeah.